Now on Sports Talk, it's SC Wild with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer is here to take your questions about the great outdoors in South Carolina. Give him a call at 888-898-2525. It's SC Wild from DNR on the Sports Talk Radio Network.
Okay, it is time to welcome in the Major Billy Downer to another edition of SC Wild from the Department of Natural Resources here on Sports Talk. Haven't talked to the Major since prior to the Memorial Day weekend holiday, so it's great to have him back with us. And good evening, sir. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Phil?
We are doing
Pleasure to be here.
Terrific. Yes, sir. What's been going on with you since the last time we talked to you?
Well, let's see. I was a part of the Bike Week detail last week of Memorial Day. We've made it through Memorial Day, of course. Through our and again, remember, we call the time between Memorial Day and Labor Day the 100 deadliest days of summer. Unfortunately, we have already started off those days with a loss. We had a boating accident occur where some folks were being pulled on a tube, and they were not wearing PFDs, which is actually required, but they fell off of the tubes, and to make a long story short, one of them did not make it back to the boat.
Boy, where was this?
This was up in the upper part of the state.
Okay. Now, you hate to hear that story. You hope you can make it through a big holiday. How was it with the Biker Week? I know that can always be a little bit testy at times with some of the behavior. How was everything from your vantage point?
It was about typical as far as a bike week goes, and just crowd management, because you're basically just managing crowds with the rest of state law enforcement. Remember that when we talk about what our officers do, and I've reminded you over the years that our officers don't just do traditional game warden, hook and bullet stuff, enforcement every day. We're called many times to assist other state law enforcement agencies, South Carolina Highway Patrol, SLED, our state law enforcement division, as well as probation, parole, and pardon, our state partners. We work together at big events when local agencies such as Myrtle Beach need assistance in managing large crowds. And so Bike Week is something we've done since I began. My first Bike Week was in '98. And today what it looks like compared to then is totally different. And, the bikes have changed a little bit. The popular thing now is these slingshots. But still, loud music is people having a good time. And we're there not to keep people from having a good time. We're there just to make sure that safety is maintained as far as and the crowds don't get out of hand. That's really what we're there to do. And so our officers do a really good job at that. Very proud of our men and women in green, because they always rise to the top when it comes to having a cool head and just kind of sit back and just maintain. They do a really good job with that. Our officers deal with people with guns every day in the field, so our folks typically are really good about maintaining their temper, their temperament more often than not. And so we do a really good job when we're down there assisting patrol, assisting Myrtle Beach, and just maintaining a presence and allowing folks to have a good time, but do it safely. Again, there's lots of large crowds. Yeah. I mean, the parking lot it's hard to believe, but if you've ever been to the Bass Pro, seen the parking lot there where Hooters is.
Oh, yeah.
That parking lot has no open spaces from about 8 o'clock at night to about 12 o'clock. There are no open spaces. And the lanes in between the spaces are filled with bikes and vehicles, people showing off. When I say showing off, I mean like a parade, not showing off doing something stupid. But it's become the big hangout, and literally thousands of vehicles there.
Yeah.
And thousands upon thousands of people. So it's just a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But again, made it through that. Our officers on the water did a good job. We continue to work hard at protecting our waterways during our holiday weekends, and Memorial Day was a big weekend, pretty good weather, for the most part. So people came out. A lot of boating going on. A lot of boating going on now.
Well, it's only going to get more and more as we get into the heart of June and July, and July 4th coming up. Of course, it'll be here before you know it. And I know one thing you wanted to talk about again and hit on the usage of life jackets, and also a new system of numbering you wanted to talk about related to boats.
Yes. So, it's new. I say it's new, and it is new, but it actually took place. The changes took place almost 10 years ago, as far as announcing this new system, and it's just taken a long time to come up with that. To come out with that, as far as basically the labeling system. So, folks, if you're used to life jackets, you're used to looking at life jackets. When we teach Boater Ed for years now, we've taught there's 5 types of life jackets. There's type 1, which is a wearable. Type 1's meant for the ocean. It's meant to self-right you, to hit your head up if you hit the water, to flip you over. There was a type 2, which was called a nearshore device. That was your typical orange life jacket that you buy from Walmart for $4 to $8, whatever, that you'll see in the bags that are stacked up 4 high and zippered up nice and tight. Your basic orange life jacket was type 2. The type 3 was what we call a recreational device. It was designed for skiing, wearing when you're doing water sports on a jet ski or similar device, or if you're fishing, you wanted something you could wear but be able to move. Then there's the type 4, which is the throwable device, and the throwable device was the seat cushion everybody remembers, or your ring buoy that you throw to somebody if they get in trouble. They can render immediate aid. And it has a little weight to it, so you can throw it against the wind where life jackets will blow back at you. You couldn't get it to somebody. And then there's the type 5 or specialty devices. And these were all over the map. Some of these were like your float coats, your little satchels that went around your waist, the waist belts. Those were specialty type 5s, so those had to be worn to be counted. So many types, and across the United States and Canada. The new jacket, the new life jacket numbering system is now it's a little simpler. So it changes into 2 categories now: wearable and throwable. The wearable life jackets are divided into 5 what they call buoyancy categories: 50, 70, 100, 150. Basically 4 really categories. So 50, 70, 100, and 150. So that's the level of buoyancy. So those are all new numbers. Everybody's going, what the heck does that mean? So if you see a life jacket now in Walmart, you're most likely, when you look on it, you used to look for U.S. Coast Guard approved on the inside label. It would say USCG approved, and then it would tell you a type 1, 2, 3, whatever. Now you're going to see most likely a 50, 70, 100, or 150. If you look close at the little image, it's a very big image. It's a person in the water. The 50 shows a person in the water with a life jacket on and a dock nearby it. And a handout says 50. Well, 50 is not approved for Coast Guard use in a boat. So you need to be careful there. But the 70 is what most of you are all going to see is a 70. Most all life jackets now you see in the stores are going to have 70 on it. And that 70 means it's the type buoyancy, and it's going to match up with the old type 2 and type 3. On that 70, along with it, you'll see either a indicator that says turns most, or it will say no turn. What that means is, if it says turns most, it would be a type life jacket that if you hit the water, it would self-right you if you were unconscious. A 70 with a symbol that says no turn on it is going to be one that is, again, it's acceptable, it's Coast Guard approved, but it will not self-right you if you are unconscious. If you're unconscious, your head may remain in the water, and that could be dangerous if you're unconscious, of course. The type 4s go away because it's just called simply a throwable device. So type 5s almost kind of go away. So when you see the 70, the 100, and 150, your 70 is what we call the near shore, like the Type 2. Your 100 is considered, it's a little bit better. It's for rougher water. And then the 150 would be most often associated with your Type 1 device because it's meant for offshore. So Type 1, the 100 and 150 are out there. So if you see 100, 150, it's a great life jacket. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be thicker. It's probably going to be a little bit more cumbersome because it's designed to float you better for a longer period of time. So to recap again, because that's a lot of information, hard to remember, the old type system, Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, those are gone. You're going to see the numbers 70, 100, and 150. For most cases, you're going to see a 70, 100, or 150, and a little figure along with it. 70 is basically what you're going to see mostly, and that 70 is acceptable for Coast Guard approved, and that can be used in your boat. That would be classified as a wearable style life jacket. So most are going to be in the 70 buoyancy category. So it will also tell you things like what that life jacket could be used for. It may tell you that it's for PWC, skiing, towing. It's going to tell you if it can be used for that. So that's all on that life jacket label. But again, 70, 100, 150 are the numbers you're going to see most. So Type 1 basically becomes the 150. You could see the 150 on it, or maybe 100. Near shore and basically the offshore type style. Type 2 and Type 3s become 70, and that is most likely what you're going to see in a life jacket for most common use inshore on our lakes. So your inshore devices for Type 2s, Type 3s now become a 70 with a little person on there and a handheld. And describing that over the radio is hard, but if you look it up online, you can look at new life jacket icons, and it'll tell you all about it. And that's been going on now for a few years. They're finally coming out. You're coming out, and you'll see them now on the shelves because life jackets that we're ordering for our officers now are coming with the 70 on them, which is helpful in identifying that proper life jacket. So again, for folks going to Walmart or maybe going to West Marine, you still may see some life jackets that have Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 on them, but most likely they're going to have this new numbering system, 70, 100, or 150. The only one to avoid is if you see one that says 50, because that is not designed for Coast. It's not approved by Coast Guard, not designed for a boat. Not even really sure why it's out there, but the 50 is one that's not approved. So 70, 100, 150 is what you're looking for. 70s near shore, basically, or a calm. 100 is going to be near shore with waves. 150 is your offshore Type 1 style. So those are the ones to look for.
Let me ask you this. And what you're saying, I mean, that's a lot of data, a lot of information to know and absorb, just listening to you here on the radio. When somebody goes to a store and starts looking at these life jackets, do the people there at the store, the clerks, the salespeople, do they know this information? Can they explain one life jacket from another to a customer who might be wondering, okay, what's the usage for this? Why is this one maybe more expensive or better? Are they knowledgeable in all this information?
That's a great question. That's a fair question. But I'm going to probably tell you they're not going to understand it.
Yeah.
It's and we're starting to try to teach our officers now to look for those, because you're still going to see the Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 in boats for years to come. People don't throw that away, but it is something that, over time, as life jackets get older, they start getting tears in them, then you're going to have you're going to have to buy new life jackets. So folks need to know what that new numbering system looks like. If you're a new boat owner and you're buying new life jackets, you're going to see only the new numbering system, and you may not know what those mean. Look for a 70. If it has 70, you're good to go. That's the easy and quick reference guide. If it says 70 in there, as far as the rating, you're good to go, and that's a great one for your boat. Now, if you're going offshore, probably want to look for a 100 or 150. That just provides more buoyancy.
Makes sense. So
now, again, it's confusing. It's new, so it's just one of those things that we need to kind of, as time goes on, we're going to get more used to. But it's the new deal. Basically, it can be a little confusing at first. It's confusing for us getting used to it, but it's the newtons of flotation, and it's just and buoyancy and kilograms the jacket provides. It's like a 50 provides 5 kilograms or 11 pounds of buoyancy. That's just one of those. It's hard to describe it. That's why I avoid even saying that, because that just gets really confusing. What does that mean?
Is there a brand of life jacket that you prefer? One that is like top notch, the safest of them all, or are they all about? I mean, if you're buying a life jacket, you want to think that all of them are good for doing what they're supposed to do.
Great question. So again, you want to make sure that you get a life jacket that has a U.S. Coast Guard approval number, and that 70 is the new approval number. So you want to make sure it's got a U.S. Coast Guard. It says U.S. Coast Guard approved inside and has at least 70 on it. Now remember, they still will come in sizes. There'll be an adult universal, then there's child sizes, youth sizes. It doesn't change the rules. Make sure you get a life jacket that fits the intended user. The buoyancy is a whole different game, but you want to make sure that the life jacket is the right size for a child. That's always the rule. Even with these new numbering systems, don't worry about that. You want to make sure it at least has 70 on it, but then make sure you get a size that is appropriate for your child or youth in the boat or people. A life jacket that fits a 300-pound man is not necessarily the best life jacket for a 90-pound female. You want to get a life jacket that fits appropriately. And the best way to do that is go to the store and try them on. No doubt about it. As far as brands, there's no brand really better. Everybody's going to say they know Stearns. That's been out there forever. Mustang, those brands have been out there. People know them. But if it has a U.S. Coast Guard approval number, it's a good life jacket and it's safe to wear.
All right, let me shift. Life jackets are certainly important and useful, and, of course, need to be used appropriately at all times. What about also on the boats, of course, you have the cushions that boat owners will have in the boats, flotation cushions. Do those two come with different numbering or different strengths, and what would you advise about the use of those cushions in the case of trying to throw somebody a flotation device?
So that's a great question. We're covering that again.
That's three straight great questions.
I'm going to be positive. I'm not ever going to down you, even though I will say I've already covered that, but we're going to go over it again.
Oh, I must have missed it.
That's a Type 4 throwable device. Those did not change.
I lost that in the translation.
That's okay, though. But it's a great question in that if you wanted to hear that again, then there's probably somebody else out there that wants to know that too. So a throwable device still remains a throwable device. It just won't say Type 4 anymore. It's going to say throwable. And remember, a throwable device is required on a boat 16 feet or longer. If your boat is 16 feet or longer, you're required to have a throwable device on board to throw to someone to provide immediate aid to that person. Again, a ring buoy or the seat cushion, as you call it, with the 2 straps on it. It does not have to have a rope attached to it. Been a common myth, not necessarily a bad idea, but if you can throw it better without the rope, throw it. The main thing is you have one on board that can be used to give immediate aid to someone who may need it, who falls overboard.
All right. Now let me ask you this. What do you say to the people on the boat, the captain, passengers, whatever, somebody falls overboard accidentally and they're in distress? What do you say to them about remaining calm? Don't panic on the boat. I know words are cheap. You don't know how people are going to react, but what advice do you give people when they're in a situation like that?
So when someone falls overboard, a couple things to remember. Motor, neutral, cut it off. So I say that in that order because when someone falls overboard, we get a lot of prop strikes from people falling overboard a boat and people either putting the motor in reverse to back up to them, and people have been chewed up by the motor, children and adult alike. Horrible stories. Again, throwing the throwable device to give them immediate aid is important. Put the boat in neutral or cut it off. Simply just turn the motor off. When you can get back to them, face them with the boat. Don't ever back into somebody. But as you're going towards someone, people get frustrated. They get excited. You're right, Phil. They're very excited. They may gun the boat when they shouldn't. They may hit somebody, run over them with the boat, trying to get back to them. When you get close, cut the motor off so that prop's not spinning. You know, several people, many a person has been injured by a motor who was, quote, in neutral, and it wasn't. So just cut it off. Cut the motor off. Get them on board. Use a throwable device, throw to them immediately, give them some aid. One thing I can tell you, and this happens a lot also, when someone is in trouble and they're drowning, it is our desire inwardly, you want to jump out there quick and go help them. Throw them something first. Throw them that throwable device. That's why it's required to be on board. If you don't have life-saving training, be careful, because a drowning person will kill you to save themselves. And they don't even mean to.
Yeah.
A drowning person will.
Because they're reaching and grabbing for everything they can get, right?
That's correct. And if you don't have life-saving training, it's very hard to know what to do in that situation. But when you do life-saving, they teach you to take an object and push to them and keep that between you and that person so they have something to flail and grab onto. Otherwise, they're going to grab onto you, and they may sink you in the act of you trying to save them. It's hard to remove those 1,000 years of people, just that survivability factor. You want to survive, and all reason takes over. And someone drowning is going to do everything they can to stay afloat.
But then again,
they don't mean to.
You have the hero instinct.
That's right.
That
That's
jumps
right.
into people, right? They're like, I got to go save this person.
Absolutely. All these are normal reactions. Again, throwable device is important. Throw that to somebody where they can have some flotation. They can grab onto that. The throwable device has straps on it, the seat cushion or the ring buoy has straps on it. They can grab, hold on to it, hug it like a pillow, and then you can go to them and pull them to you. If it's got a rope on it, you can use the rope to pull it back to you, to pull them back to the boat where they can get safely on board. So a lot of things said there, but it was a good question about throwable devices. If someone falls overboard, remember, careful as you approach them with a boat, cut the motor off when you get close, because too many people have been injured by a motor that they thought was in neutral and it was still engaged. And even a prop going slow will cut through skin, bone in seconds.
Major, that is some great information. I hope people were paying close attention. Anybody with a boat who's planning to go out this weekend, that was some great information. I hope you take it to heart. If you didn't know that, hopefully you learned something. And hopefully we will avoid a tragedy on the rivers and the lakes this weekend. Absolutely. Again, just remember, anything to take away today, if you're looking for a new life jacket, make sure it fits the intended user, and look for that 70. That's the new number to look for a properly Coast Guard approved life jacket. Major, thank you so much. Have yourself a great weekend coming up, couple of weeks. We'll be back with you, and we'll be heading towards July 4th, so I know you'll have some great advice and insight about that upcoming weekend. Absolutely. Hope everyone's boat safe in the meantime. Thank you, Major. Take care. Major Billy Downer from the Department of Natural Resources with us here on Sports Talk and SC Wild. What great stuff talking about the biker weekend that he was part of as far as helping to guard and direct and protect people down at the beach. And, of course, we salute all the law enforcement officials, DNR, Highway Patrol, police officers, sheriffs, everybody else down there trying to keep order and protect everybody. We salute all them and thank you for what you do. And thank you, Major, for some great information on the program tonight. All right, that'll do it. Tomorrow night, Mike Morgan will be with us. We'll look more at Clemson and Florida, have the latest on the Gamecock search as well. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.